Hey everybody, welcome back to One Seed, One World. Today I'm out here going to start my fall garden. I probably should have done this maybe like a week or so ago with some of this stuff, but we're gonna go ahead and try it anyway. Last year, our first frost didn't happen until like end of November or beginning of December, which was kind of late. We had a really warm fall last year. Normally our first frost date is around the second week of October. So we'll see if I got time to get some more stuff growing. Some cool weather crops. There's different things that you can plant in August, and it depends on what your growing zone is and when your first frost date is. But if you've got time, you can put in things like potatoes, kale, cilantro, beets, carrots. You know, a lot of these things that don't mind the cool weather, and things like kale are frost tolerant. And you can probably be harvesting kale if you've seen some of my previous videos where I was actually picking kale in the snow in January. But I'm going to start off with potatoes. I was not going to do potatoes initially because I just didn't feel like dealing with them, and maybe you saw my potato harvest bust when I grew them in bags. But I'm gonna try some of these raised beds anyway. I got a bunch of these like little tiny potatoes that came out of those bags. I figured, why not just go ahead and try and plant them and see what goes on. So I'll get started here using my homie and dig out some little quick rows here. And I'm gonna move some of this dirt off to the side because, you know, with potatoes, it's good if you can hill them up as they grow. So I want to plant these deeper, and we'll just keep some of the dirt to the side so I can add, you know, hill up around them later on. I don't have that many. We're just going to do a little bit here. I might have enough to make 3 rows. So now that I got the potatoes in, something else I'm gonna do is some new Corota carrots. My carrots for the summer didn't do very well because of how hot it was. So I'm hoping that with planting some now for the fall, with the cooler weather coming in, that right now the soil is warm enough to get the carrots to germinate, but by the time they start sprouting, I'm hoping that the temperatures drop and it should be optimal temperatures to grow carrots in, where they don't just bolt and go to seed right away, and then you just end up with a lot of greens and maybe some gnarly roots if you leave them in long enough. So planting in fall should hopefully be better. My cilantro this year bolted really fast too, and I have a video coming up in the next couple of weeks on harvesting coriander seed, which is the seed of cilantro. So I did get a nice little harvest of coriander seeds, but I didn't get very much cilantro. So I'm going to try to go for some fall cilantro, and I'm still using the slow bolt cilantro. And another great one to plant in the fall is radishes. Radishes, all different varieties, they prefer the cooler weather. They don't do so well in the hot summers, so spring and fall are a great time for radishes. We got a good early harvest of radish, and now I'm gonna plant some more. These are just a radish crimson giant that I'm putting in this time, and see if we can't get another little batch for some fall salads. Had a beet that was left behind. This is one of those chagia or chogia, I don't know, like rainbow colored beets. I had planted some of these early and only a few came up. This was one that got missed. It was probably buried under some lettuce or something else that used to be here, but it's a pretty good looking beet. You can still use that. All right, so this first bed is done with the radish, cilantro, carrots, and potatoes. Just little rows. Some of the seeds are older, so I don't know what kind of germination I'm gonna get. Plus with the radish and the carrots, I'll have to thin those out since I didn't use the seed tape this time. Another great thing just to mention about radishes is that they will produce very quickly. I mean, a lot of radishes are ready within 30 days, and there's even a variety out there, Sax 2, that is ready within 18 days. So you can still plant these kind of things in August, or these radishes in August, September, and should have enough time to get a good harvest out of them before your first frost comes along. So one of my best friends just stopped by. He was coming through town and we hung out for a couple hours, but now I'm back out here, back at it, trying to get some of this planting finished up before the rains come in. We're supposed to be getting rain here in the next hour. So, finished that first front bed, and the next thing I'm gonna put in are some beets. I've got Crosby's Egyptian and Detroit Dark Red that I wanna kind of fill this bed with. During the fall, or I should say, beets make a great fall crop, or even early spring, but I've had the best luck with planting during around mid-August and then harvesting them by like early October. In the past, my beet crops have always done better when I've done them for the fall. So if you're planting a fall garden, definitely consider doing beets, because not only do you get, the full old beetroot, but the greens are awesomely delicious. They taste a lot, for me, they're a lot like Swiss chard. And in fact, I like them better than Swiss chard. They really, beet greens are my favorite green. So if you've never had them before, I recommend trying them. They're really good, just boiled or steamed with maybe some vinegar or some, I like to use lemon juice, salt and pepper, and man, just a great cooked green dish. So, I don't think I've ever planted either of these varieties before. I've done a lot of the bull's blood beets in the past, but I saw some good reviews on these Detroit Dark Red, and the Crosby's Egyptian look kind of interesting to me. Looks like they've been around since the 1800s. And it even says a very quick maturing storage variety, perfect for fall harvest. So I guess I chose correctly in this variety for a fall garden. So let me see if I can't get some of these in here before this rainstorm comes in. So I don't think I'm going to get to my kale bed today. This is my covered hoop bed that you've been here before, have seen on previous videos. Right now, got some grassy weeds growing up in here. I cleaned it out once, but I haven't done anything with it since I cleaned out all the old stuff that had died off. But this one's going to take more work before I can plant, because my cover is dry rotted and split, and I've got to roll out a new one and reattach all this before I can get to the kale. So I'm not going to do this today. Kale, though, like I said earlier in this video, it's a great fall and winter crop. It really holds up well to frost. It even tastes better after it has a couple of light frosts. And if you plant some kale in the fall, there's a good chance, unless you live farther north where it gets super, super cold, but it can stand up to a lot of cold. And if you do a plastic cover over a raised bed like this, you could be harvesting it well into the winter, and maybe even throughout the whole winter. Out of this bed that was all kale last year, I had 3 kale plants that survived the whole winter long, and were huge this spring. Now with those, I just trimmed off and I'd feed them to the chickens, and didn't use them for myself, but that just gives you an idea of how long you can be eating fresh greens out of your garden with just a little bit of extra work with some plastic covering and a fall planting. Another thing that's got to wait until tomorrow, I think, with this rain coming in, is what's left of my tomato trellis beds back here, and the beans. Now the beans I'll just keep growing, you know, until everything it comes in and is dried out. But I want to take out all these tomato plants. Unfortunately, I had a very short tomato season with all the heat and rain. They, you know, had fungus and blight that killed them off much earlier than I would have liked. So I'm going to collect whatever tomatoes are left in here and pull them all out. And then I think I'm going to plant some peas and some maybe, I think it's called tongues of fire beans I forgot, or dragon tongue or something like that. And see if I can maybe get a small bean crop and small pea crop in here before winter. Both varieties I'm going to be planting in here are both varieties that I'm planting in here will be bush varieties, so they won't need as long of a growing period as some of the, you know, the vining pole type beans and peas would need. So I think I might have a chance as long as we don't get like a super early frost. So that's going to be my plan for tomorrow, is get this cleared out and see how they do. We'll follow up later on in the fall and I'll show you what all came out of that. My last plan for the fall garden is going to be winter wheat. And this area behind me is where I had our flax growing that's all been cleared out. I'm going to cover this in a black plastic for probably about 2 to 3 weeks to kill off any weed seeds that are still in there, because I definitely had a problem with weeds if you saw my flax harvesting video and how it was mostly weeds. So I want to kill off any seeds that might be in there, get it raked out, and then in September I'll plant winter wheat, and I'll do a more comprehensive video on the whole wheat process that probably won't be done until next summer, because what happens is when you plant the winter wheat, it sprouts in the fall up until finally, you know, the super cold weather will kill it off and it will kind of die back, but it still has a good root base. Then in the spring it will start popping up again. You can use this as like a green compost where you would just till it under, and that would then compost down into your soil. It adds a lot of nutrients back in the ground if you use it for that. Or what I'm going to do is grow it until I can harvest actual wheat berries from it, so that I can have a small amount to grind into flour. Did this once a few years ago, and we ended up with about 5 pounds of homemade flour. And it was a pretty awesome experience, and I thought this would make a good use of this spot. So plant in September, but I probably won't be harvesting it until the end of June, end of July next year. But if you got some open areas, consider that as a ground cover, a green compost, or try growing your own wheat. It's kind of fun, and it's a cool thing to do when you can grind your own flour. All right, so that's what I'm doing for my fall garden so far. And I just wanted to kind of show you some of the things I was planning, maybe to give you some ideas on things that you can plant this fall. Again, I can't get to all of it today because the weather's not cooperating, and I don't want to get too involved in another preparation project and then have to stop in the middle of the rain. So I'll just wait till tomorrow afternoon and get back into it. So I hope that you guys are considering a fall garden or looking at things that you can plant if you haven't already. Put some comments below, let me know, what kind of stuff you're planting and what success that you've had in the past with other fall gardens that maybe you've done. And if you're a beginner, tell us about your journey, what you're going to do this year and trying out for the first time. So that's it for me today. Thanks for hanging out with me once again, and I hope whatever's going on in your neck of the woods, gardens, homesteads, fall gardens, whatever it is that you're doing, I hope that it's working out fantastic for you. But we will see you again soon. Have a great day. Namaste.